Hey everybody, we are here with Brian Dong, the winner of the most recent NLG Case tournament up in Dayton, Ohio. What did you play?
I played DPE Sky Striker.
And what happened?
Got first place. Wasn't expecting it.
What was your record?
I went X11 in Swiss, and then, of course, won out in Top Cut.
Awesome, sounds good. Well, let's get into the deck profile.
All right. So the deck profile is honestly pretty straightforward. You play 3 Ray and 3 Rose. The Rose, I know a lot of people don't like to max out copies of her because, you think you'll brick with it. But in the DPE version of this deck, Rose is actually really good because it helps you get extra bodies on board. And especially if they make Verte Anaconda in the extra monster zone, it's very easy to set up an ace plus Anaconda so that you don't lose your ace access going into the next turn. And with this build that tries to go second all the time, the only times you ever lose is when you don't see an ace. So you want to max out on copies of your aces so that you can max out on consistency as well. And then with hand traps, we just run the 3 Ash, 3 Ogre, 3 Veiler, and 3 Impermanence. This is pretty standard. These Ogres used to be Nibiru's. I changed them out because I thought there was going to be a lot of Adventurer running around. But I actually didn't play against that many. I think I only played against a couple Adventurer Phantom Knight decks. It's kind of underperformed, but it might also be because I played against 3 Eldritch during Swiss. So I might still keep this in just because I don't know what I'd replace it with, but it is very good against the adventurer stuff if that's something that's running around your locals. For the striker spells, we have the usual 3 Area 0, 2 Area 0, and then 3 Widow Anchor and 2 Shark Cannon. These are the only ones that you play at more than 1 just because they have really good utility. And I have thought about playing 3 Shark Cannon in this format because with Phantom Knights and DPE, but I think 2 is good enough because when you're going second, Shark Cannon might not always be live. So having 2 is good so that you'll see it sometimes and then you can search out multiple copies if you need it. But 3 is probably unnecessary. And of course we have our power 1-ups. We have Engage, Multi-Roll, Drones, Burners, and Eagle Booster. I think some decks are cutting Eagle Booster. I still like it because sometimes you can search it out and insulate your Anaconda to make sure that it goes through. Or when you have just your Engage, you can just your Engage in an ace. You can search this out to make sure that your Kagari will go through and that you'll get an additional draw. And with how this format is, having card advantage is really important, and you want to make sure that you get as many cards as possible off a singular Engage. And then for the generic 1-ups, we have Rhoda, Upstart, Mine, and Terraforming, of course. Really great ways to put spells in grave. The Mine is there as kind of a nice to have. You can search it out with Terraforming when you need it, and some decks don't have outs to it. But most of the time I will side this out after game 1 just because everybody is going to be siding in their spell and trap removal. But game 1, it's a pretty good card to have just in case. And then lastly, for the generic spells, we have 3 Forbidden Chalice. This card really puts in work, just negating Barons, negating DPEs, just making sure that your plays go through, and they basically double up as 3 more Widow Anchors. So really great card. Of course, you have your bricks, and then the card that recently got limited to 2. Nothing really much to say about this engine. It's pretty broken. But yeah, there's the main deck.
Do you feel you would still be main decking Chalice at 3 if you had a card like Droplets?
That's hard to say because Droplets requires me to send cards to negate stuff, whereas Chalice, it's playable by itself. And I don't know if I would want to have to use 2 cards just to negate 1 monster, even though they can't respond to it. I think this deck operates really well when it can just trade cards 1 for 1, or even better, trade them 1 for 2, 1 for 3, so on. The whole reason the deck is so good is because Ray is just basically a 1 for 3 in most situations. So I'm not sure if I would play Droplets. I think if I were really struggling against Scythe combo and there were so many decks running around that set up Scythe plus 2 Omnis, then I'll probably play Droplets over Chalice just because then they can't negate it, and you can ensure that you're not going to be locked out of the game and cheesed out of a win just because you got scythed.
Okay.
All right, so extra deck. Striker ratios are pretty normal. So we have 1 Kaina, 2 Hayate, 3 Kagari, and 3 Shizuku. This is pretty standard. The third Hayate really doesn't come up all that often. Most of the time you'll get 3 spells engraved just fine after your second one. So I think this ratio is pretty proven at this point. Oh, and then of course the 1 Zeke. Sometimes I do miss the second one, but there really is an extra deck space to afford another one, and most of the time one works out. Then you have the Phoenix, Ningirsu, and Access Code. This can be the Hulk combo if you want, but I find myself preferring the extra utility that these two provide more than I do having the Hulk and Celine combo. Yeah, like these just offer you like alternatives you can do in case there's some kind of problem card you need to out. Dragoon, for example. And lastly, you have the Anaconda and the DPE. Pretty self-explanatory. Just a pretty broken engine. And then lastly, for the side deck, we have 3 Drone Lockbird, 3 Artifact Lancia, and 3 Nibiru the Primal Being as hand traps. Nibiru I was not very impressed by. I think this format Nibiru is not very good. It's terrible against Eldritch, against Adventure Prank Kids or Adventure Phantom Knights. You're never getting this off because they always have the Griffin Rider on the field. You really need to draw him with alongside Valor or Impermanence for it to do anything, but you can't really rely on that. So I think I'll be taking this out going forward. It just doesn't seem very good, this format. Droll and Lancia, on the other hand, very good cards for stopping specific decks that I might have trouble against. So, you know, combo decks that I really need to stop right in their tracks. Or decks that just do a lot of banishing like Phantom Knights. And this stops the Brave engine too. So it's like sometimes if their main deck, like Phantom Knights, does a lot of banishing, I'll just replace the Ghost Ogres with these. Because these are basically like Ghost Ogre, but, you know, better. In that specific case, at least. And then, lastly, we have 1 Feather Duster, 2 Twin Twisters, and then 3 Evenly Matched. This is for any of the back row decks that I'd be going up against, such as Eldritch, Ultrageist, something like that. Unfortunately, even though I played against 3 Eldritch, I didn't actually draw these that often, but still I was able to eke out some wins against them, and still thankfully made top cut. Definitely I would play more of these. Maybe I'd add Lightning Storm in here, maybe replacing the Nibirus. I think with all the Eldritch running around, it'd be pretty impactful, this format. But yeah, that's it.
All right, well, if you guys want any proof that this deck list works, here's the 5 boxes you won. Congratulations, Brian. Thanks for the deck list.
Oh, and a few shout outs to our sponsors. So, of course, we have Refined Gaming. Very thankful to them for sponsoring the team and giving us a lot of resources. Of course, No Limit Gaming for hosting the case tournament itself and making it free entry, actually. So if any of you are in the Dayton area and, you know, you want to go into large-scale tournaments, potentially without paying anything, then definitely keep an eye on No Limit Gaming. They're one of the best card shops in the area, and they're my hometown card shop. And then lastly, of course, but not least, we have Heroes in Games from Columbus. Very nice store owner. Very great place to duel all around as well.
And that's where we get our practice in for the case tournaments.
Yes.
All right. Thanks.
All right.